Welcome back, friends, for another photography tip here. Hanging outside on a beautiful day, which reminds me, if you haven't watched the previous video about light, you should definitely go do that now. I kind of feel like I haven't watched it because I'm making a bit of a mistake. I got the sun over there, but I got this stupid hat on, so it's making my face look a little dark. But now I'm all squinty. So these are the things you have to think about. Plus I have hat head. So I'm going to put the hat back on. But you can see how it makes my eyes a little darker. Anywho, you got to start paying attention to things like that. And so I'm outside. I'm making sure the light is coming from a good direction. Like I say, I should probably lose the hat or move a little bit. But I want to use this spot because it's a beautiful surrounding. Gee, check this out. I got this lovely little park by my house, right on the river. And it's kind of fun to come down here and sit down here sometimes, especially when I want to take some nice photos, which I want to do today. So there's a couple things I want to pay attention to today that we're going to add on to our discussion about light. Number one, last time a bunch of you took any old photo of any old thing, which is great, no problem. By the way, if you haven't got your photos in from the last assignment, make sure you get the photos in and explain them. I didn't really care what you took a photo of. So some people took a photo of toilet paper rolls, and some people took a photo of Uno cards, and all kinds of neat things popped up in the last one, and that's absolutely fine. The other thing I got in the last photos a whole lot is pets. And this time I want you to pay attention to what you're taking a photo of. And in particular, I want you to take 3 photos of 3 different objects, 3 different types of photos. Now, when it comes to pets, pets are beautiful, they're awesome, they're lovely, and I know you love to take pictures of your pets and share pictures of your pets, and that's great. The problem with pets is it's really hard to get them to pose properly unless they're really well trained. So pets not necessarily the best choice for the photos that we're going to take this time around. This time around, I'd like you to think of 3 different photos. One of them is going to be an inanimate object. So I have brought my friend Fezzik back again, so Fezzik is going to help me out with this. He's going to be my subject for my photos. Another one is I want you to take a picture of something out in nature, something outside, or just some nice scene. So me, part of the reason why I came here, I got lots of beautiful nature to take photos of, so this is going to work pretty well for me. The third one that I want you to take a picture of is a person. And you can take a picture of yourself. It can be a selfie for this assignment. However, sometimes it's a little hard when you're doing pictures yourself to kind of zoom out far enough, to get wide enough, so that you can actually sort of move yourself around in the frame. Sometimes when you take a selfie, you're a little too big. But that brings me to idea number 2, which is I want to be able to see your subject. I want to be able to tell what your subject is, so I want it to be nice and big and nice and clear, and I'll show you an example of that in just a second. The third thing I want you to pay attention to is the background of your photo. So I want it to look nice in the background. So I'm sitting on this nice little hill leading down to the river here. Hopefully it looks kind of nice in the background. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I notice it's pretty bright back there. I can see my zebra stripes on my screen. But hopefully it looks okay and has a nice kind of background. So I want you to actually think about where you're going to take this photo. And an important part of that is I want you to get up off your butt and not take these photos necessarily from the couch. Ideally, again, using the proper amount of light, you would come outside. Sorry, doggy. Yeah, it's okay. It's not like I'm doing a video or anything, doggy. You'd have lots of light, so you'd come outside, or by a window is fine. But I want you to actually pay attention to what's in the background and how your photograph looks. Okay, so those 3 things: enough light, make sure you fill the frame, we call it, so the thing you're taking the picture of is big enough, and number 3, what's in the background. So take a nice photo. So I'm going to move around a bit, and we're going to start with Fezzik here, and I'm going to show you some of what I'm talking about. Alright, so I've moved around a bit. I've put Fezzik on the riverbank. I've kind of taken a step down. I'm being perfectly safe. Whenever you're taking your photos, you want to be aware of your surroundings and making sure you're safe. You never want to be, playing in traffic or having the possibility of falling into a river. So I'm perfectly safe. someone knows where I am, there's no danger here. So I put Fezzik in a spot where he looks pretty good, and he's obviously, so the background is nice, nothing distracting in the background. I paid attention to light. The light is shining on his face, so we can see his face and his features nice. And he's pretty big. Sometimes, though, when you take a picture, especially of something like Fezzik here, a little bobblehead, sometimes we tend to get a little too far away. Something like this. And yeah, same sort of idea, only it's hard to tell what we're actually taking a photo of because Fezzik is so small. So we want to be able to see him nice and clearly. The other problem, the other thing that people often do wrong, is they get a little too close. So if I get too close to Fezzik, I can't focus on him very well. Actually, my camera's doing pretty well. I'm like right up against him. But if you get too close, especially on your phone, it won't focus very well. So you don't want to do that. So you want to be a good enough distance back that it'll actually focus and you can actually see what you're taking a picture of. So that's pretty good for me right there. Nothing bad in the background. Good light. And he is nice and big. I noticed my shadow's in the way, so I'm just going to move over there a little bit. Now, I'm not taking actual photographs. I'm using video. The concepts for video are exactly the same as for photography. So the things I'm going to show you, you just apply them to photographs, whereas I'm kind of using them on video. All right, so now that we've got our good subject, we've got enough light, we've got a good background, and we've got him filling the frame enough, we can kind of take a look at what we're talking about today, which is something called the rule of thirds. Now, the rule of thirds is basically if you take your screen and you break it up into 9 even boxes. So you draw a line a third of the way and then 2/3 of the way, both down vertically and horizontally, you will get a grid. I'll show you that on my little screen here. Take a little screenshot. And you can see in my screenshot that there's 9 boxes. Now, those 9 boxes, the boxes aren't really the important part. What's important is the lines around them. So you'll see that there's lines on the side of Fezzik, and one kind of cutting off his head and one kind of at his knees. And basically what we want to start to try to do is, often when we take the picture, our first inclination is to put him right in the middle, exactly like he is right now. But the rule of thirds says that the strongest photos, you put the most interesting thing in your photo on one of those lines. So instead of taking a photo of Fezzik right there in the middle, I move him off to the side, and now he's on one of those lines. Now, in particular, if you can get the most important part or the most interesting part of your photo on an intersection of 2 lines where the 2 lines meet, then that is going to be an extra interesting photo. Your eyes are just kind of drawn that way. If you look at the human face, it's kind of set up that same way. Your eyes are about a third of the way down from the top of your head. Sorry about the dog barking. What was I saying? Oh yeah, your eyes are about a third of the way down from the top of your head, and your mouth is roughly a third of the way up from the bottom of your head. And if you make the grid lines vertically, you can actually situate your 2 eyes on those 2 points, and it kind of sort of works with the layout of your face. And so a lot of things are kind of built that way. We're genetically predisposed to pay attention to those kinds of lines. So when I put Fezzik on the side here, it just suddenly makes it a lot more interesting photo. It kind of opens it up a little bit. Now, the one thing we want to do is we want to pay attention to which way Fezzik is facing, because right now he's facing kind of into the open space on the frame. But if I move him over to this side and put him on this line, it kind of changes the composition of the photo. Now he's looking off screen, which can be interesting sometimes if we're wanting to show that he's kind of thinking about something that we can't see perhaps. But especially if you're using a person, you want to kind of give them something called speaking room. So wherever he's looking, whichever way he's facing, that's where you'll put the extra space. So I would put him over on this line like that. So this applies to your person. If you're taking a picture of yourself, instead of putting yourself in the middle of the screen like this, consider putting yourself or your human subject, whoever that is, kind of off to the side on one of those lines. And again, in particular, the eyes, which tend to be the most interesting part of the face, should be on kind of that line. I'm just going to change my shot a little bit. And I'm going to show you a screenshot of that, right like that, and you'll see what I mean. So I've kind of got myself situated on one of those lines, and it kind of makes it a more interesting photo. And again, you want to pay attention to which way you're facing. If I'm facing off this way, it doesn't make any sense to have me on that line. I would need to move myself over to the other line. But that's kind of the idea there. So if you're using a human subject, again, try to put them on that line, and in particular, pay attention to where the eyes are, and put those eyes on one of the intersections or on that kind of vertical line, and have the or the horizontal line, and have that vertical line kind of run right down your face, kind of like this. Now for my nature photo, you can use a tree or a bush, or just something around your house, or I got this neat log there. I could maybe use that log there. But what I'm looking at is the horizon. So I've kind of got that line between the river and the sky. And I'm going to put that line on one of those horizontal grid lines. Now I have to decide which is more interesting in the photo. Which do I want to focus on? Do I want to show off the river like this and have the sky kind of meet that top line, or do I want to pay attention to those beautiful clouds in the sky and kind of throw it like this? Now I've got the horizon on that bottom line. I actually took kind of where the river meets the sky over there, where the river bends, and I kind of put that on one of those cross points and made kind of an interesting photo of that. So again, you can apply this to whatever you want. If you want to take a picture of a tree, so let's say I want a picture of that big tree there. I'm going to put that right on one of those cross lines, and you can see there's kind of a branch there, kind of a little arm sticking out. I'm going to put that on the intersection. I'll show you what that looks like. And then your eye is kind of drawn to that point. All right, so my subject there, my tree, is right on that line using that rule of thirds. And then the other thing is that branch kind of coming out goes on that horizontal line and kind of meets together at that point, which makes it super interesting. Sorry, I know I'm not super interesting, but so what I want you to do is I want you to take 3 photos, and I want you to try to practice with that rule of thirds. Like I said, pay attention to what kind of light you've got. I've got natural sunlight. It's a beautiful time of day, nice and sunny outside. I've got the light on my face and on Fezzik and on the tree, so that's working out really well. I also want to pay attention to where I'm taking the photo, so I took a photo at this beautiful park down by my house, and I made sure that my subject was always the biggest thing. I'm trying to arrange my shot. I need a camera person. Does anybody want to be my camera operator? Because I suck at doing everything myself. So what I want you to do is I want you to take 3 photos. One should be of something alive, like a person or perhaps your pet, if you can get your pet to stay in one spot and to go in a place where there's enough light and enough background. If your pet is well behaved, you could try to use your pet, but a person works really well because you can tell your person where to stand and you can tell your person to stay still. Second thing I want you to take a picture of is something inanimate. So if you have a bobblehead or a little toy or whatever you want to take your picture of, that's fine for number 2. And then number 3, just something sort of natural, or even something in your house. If your house has a really nice feature, a nice staircase or something, and you want to take a picture of that, that could be interesting as well. So 3 photos, and then briefly explain how you use that rule of thirds, where you put the most interesting parts, that kind of thing. That'd be great. So that's your assignment. Put it up in Teams there. Make sure you go into Teams and attach your photos there. Most people are either putting their photos inside of a Word document, which is fine, or putting a Word document kind of alongside of it, which works absolutely fine too, but I need some sort of explanation, and I need all that stuff to be in Teams. If you want to post your pictures on social media, which is also fine, make sure you tag me and make sure that you still have a document or some kind of explanation in Teams. Press turn in and then wait for your fabulous marks to come. Hope you're all staying safe and enjoying some time in isolation. Take good care of yourselves and others, and have a nice day.